Good morning, peace and blessings, everybody, and welcome to another Wake Up Wednesday here with me, your host, Asia Nasir, and founder of Jessica Cares, which is a nonprofit organization where our mission is to empower teen girls one positive thought at a time. So, welcome back, welcome back. Today, we're going to be doing Wake Up Wednesday or starting Wake Up Wednesday a little bit different. Usually, we get right into it, we get right into the topic. But today, I want to do something different. I want to start off with some reflective questions. Some reflective questions to make us kind of understand and dig deeper as we get into the discussion of what we're going to be talking about today. So, while this is for teen girls, absolutely, because that is what Jessica Care's mission is all about. A lot of us adult women are still dealing with some of this as well because it wasn't addressed when we were teenagers. It was not addressed when we were younger to develop healthy habits as we got older. So, for some of us here that are listening, we are mothers that may be potentially teaching our girls something that we really don't want to intentionally teach them. However, it is just because it has become part of our DNA, part of our personality. Of course, we pass it on to our daughters. So today I want to start, as I mentioned before, by asking two really self-reflective questions, but you got to be honest. Okay, anytime we're going to do any type of self-reflection, we want to be honest with ourselves. So the first question that I want to ask you is, have you ever been part of a group chat, or a group of people where it started off initially, with a group of women? It started off really good, supportive, and enlightening, and made you feel better, when you was around the group or in this group chat, and all of a sudden it just turned messy. All of a sudden it just turned real messy. Okay, I want you to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, am I still in that group chat? Okay, that's the first thing. Ask yourself, am I still part of that group chat? The second self-reflective question that I want to ask you is, have how many of you have ever seen a screenshot from this group chat that you belong to, or conversation between one of the people or women or girls that are part of this group chat? You've seen a screenshot end up somewhere where it had no business going. How many of you have actually seen that? Like, oh my God, I don't think this person knows that this is out here. Okay. That's a real conversation that we're going to be having today. And the topic is group chats and this word right here, gossip, or as some of our older people say, backbiting, right? Group chats and gossip and the hidden dangers of girl talk. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And the reason why, we're talking about it is because it may seem like it's a harmless thing, like it's not a big deal, gossiping or kind of chatting and things like that. However, this harmless thing that you think that it is, it can actually affect friendships. It can damage relationship reputations. Can damage reputations. It has disturbed people's mental health, you know, and in some cases, it has affected people's lives. And in the worst case scenarios, some people, because of gossip, have taken their own lives. That's how serious, this discussion is. So while it might seem harmless, this is why we're talking about this. And again, we're talking about group chats and gossip. So I want to start off because I know somebody is already saying, I don't talk about people. Yeah, I see the talk, I see the chatter, I see, what comes up on the screens. And yep, I've seen the screenshots and stuff like that, but I don't participate in it. I mean, I'm in the group, but I don't participate in it. I want you to understand that your presence, right? Your presence and your silence is complicit, is being complicit. It's actually okaying this behavior. It is normalizing this type of behavior. So even though you're not the one that's talking, you're not the one that's saying the negative stuff, you are giving space for that person to be able to do it. Because a person can't gossip if there's nobody to listen. If there's not someone there to listen to their gossip, listen to their backbiting, they have no platform. So by you staying silent and you staying present and you still staying in those group chats, you are telling this person, I am all ears. Okay, so let's be clear on that. Let's be clear on where we stand and taking accountability for where we stand in these group chats and when it comes as it relates to gossip. And a lot of these guys, and now I want to make it clear, not all group chats are bad. That's why I said, have you ever been in some? You have some group chats that they stay very intentional and very purposeful in the, mission or whatever the intention or purpose was for that group chat. But in some cases, there are some group chats that are very messy. And in these type of group chats, a lot of it is conversation about making fun of somebody, sharing secrets, sharing secrets about that person, exposing things that are very private. And last but not least, judging appearances. A lot of times we judge the way a person looks. And I just had a friend that actually was part of a spiritual women's group. And she said that it started off beautiful, it was, very enlightening. And then it started turning into a judgment zone where they were judging how women dress and how they, wore things, and making people feel very, very uncomfortable, unwanted, and making, the group feel like they had to pick sides. And some people left as a result of it, right? So some of these group chats, they really, you know, they're not positive, right? So what you don't want is, even though you're not the one saying it, what you don't want is your name even being attached to conversations where it's tearing people down. Oh, so and so was there, because that's what you're going to ask all the time. If it's especially if it's about you, well, who was in the room, who said that, who was in the group chat, you're going to ask. And what you don't want to have is your name associated, especially if you're not the one talking. You don't want your name associated, and you don't want to be affiliated with a group that their mission is to tear people down. And what I want you to understand, girls, is that your reputation, it's like money. It's your currency. Once that reputation is damaged, or once that currency is damaged, it is very, very hard to restore. It's very hard to restore that. So, don't think for 1 minute that this is something harmless, or this is something that really it's not anything to really think about or even have a discussion. So we're going to get really deep into that. So let's talk about those screenshots that I was mentioning earlier in the self-reflective questions. I want you teen girls to understand that screenshots, while you may think that something that you're putting in a chat is just for the chat, understand that there is no such thing as a private chat. Because once you type something in, once you share pictures in this private chat, guess what? For one, it does not expire, but it is now in the web world. And two, it can be shared. It's shareable, which means it can travel. So while it was just meant to be in that group chat, you may have someone in that chat that's so willing to let other people know, to share this information. So the same way that this person's information is being shared and traveled and moved about, guess what? Anything that you share about yourself, and you're thinking, this is my girls, this is my group, this is my crew, and you're sharing things, guess what? Those secrets, those private moments that you're having, that can be shared and that could be exposed. And in a lot of these cases, there were friendships that was lost because of it. And sometimes, depending on what it is that was private that you shared, if it is shared with other people, sometimes you can lose opportunities. And what I mean by that is you could lose jobs, because if it's a photo that's unbecoming of you, or it is something that you may have done in a moment of not thinking, or being in a state where you're not in your right mind, right? Sometimes those photos can come out. And I remember watching a show, and I teach this in our vocational training class when it comes to teaching girls how to get a job. Sometimes what you put out on the web precedes you before you even get to the interview. And that could be the reason, because every company has a brand. Every college has a brand. If you're applying for a sorority or something like that, has a brand. And sometimes those photos may not represent, or that screenshot of something that you said may not represent that brand. Now, you may have far grown outside of that moment, but here again, Those screenshots don't expire. So what happens is now that moment in time, that bad judgment that you did, and there was a photo that was taken of you, now that has traveled into your adult years, and that company that you've been dying for, that college that you wanted to get into, that sorority that you've been trying to get into, now your opportunity is lost because they're saying this does not represent our brand. And the same way we found it, someone else can find it, and they don't want their name associated with that look. So it is very, very important. And this is something that a lot of people don't think about. A lot of people don't even talk about this. But when you gossip about people, make no mistake about it. When that becomes a normal thing for you, these group chats where you're normalizing talking about people, it not only affects the person that you're talking about, but it also impacts you. It also impacts you, whether you're the one talking or you're the one listening to it on a regular basis. It changes your character. And you know how it changes your character? It makes you hypercritical. It makes you hypercritical. You start looking at things from a perspective of flaws. You start focusing on flaws all the time. You focus on negativity all the time. And you even start comparing yourself, do I look like that? It changes, it actually reframes your brain. It trains your brain to focus on negativity and flaws versus positivity and enlightenment. It does, because your conversation is always about looking at and nitpicking someone's flaws, talking about someone's, hardship or something like that. Then it trains your brain to think that that is the normal conversation. That is the normal conversation. So you're always going to start with the negative. So it changes how your brain even thinks. And at moments, because you know that this is the conversations that are had and that it is very, accessible to have these conversations, you start having anxiety, wondering who's talking about you now. Who's talking about you now? So make no mistake about it. If they talking about someone and you're in the group, no one's exempt. No one is exempt, because if they can talk about one person, they will talk about that person and that person, and that person includes you. So please be aware of that and understand that empowered girls, they don't build themselves up by tearing other people down. They don't got time for that. Women who are empowered do not build up their confidence by tearing someone else's down. That is not what we do. That is not what we do. And that is not what Jessica Cares is all about. We teach girls to build themselves up, build their confidence based on their own talents, skills, gifts, and what they bring to the table, not by standing on the shoulders and at the expense of another young lady's, feelings. That's not how you build confidence, right? And gossip, it builds a false reality. It builds a false reality of loyalty. It builds a false reality of loyalty. You know what I mean? It's what you're building in these groups where gossip is being built. You're building insecurity, and you're building insecure bonding. You're bonding based off of each other's insecurity. That's why the focus is always about somebody else, always about someone else's flaws, and never about positivity. And you make yourself feel better by that. And those type of groups, those type of conversations always ends in betrayal. Always ends in betrayal, because it's not a matter of if you're going to be the topic next. It's just a matter of when. It's just a matter of when. Okay. So I want us to, now that we know the damage and the dangers that come from having those type of conversations, I want us to talk now two strategies on how to get out of these situations and out of these groups and change, the people that we're around, and training our brain to always think positive and always not, to think enlightened, to want to be in rooms where we're encouraging and building up and not tearing down. So strategy number one is, what I would say is, ask yourself, when you're, before you actually say something, or if you're seeing something that's being said, ask yourself, is this something that person would have felt comfortable, or is this something I would have felt comfortable saying if this person was standing right here? If you don't feel comfortable with saying something, if that person was present, then you shouldn't say it when they're not present. If you don't feel comfortable telling that person to their face exactly what you're about to type or write or tell or expose, then don't do it. And if someone else is doing it and you're asking yourself, would that person want that to be said about them? And you say no, then you know you're in the wrong room. And the second question is, ask yourself, is this building someone up, or is this breaking someone down? Is what I'm about to say going to break someone down or build them up? It's really important that you ask these questions and ask the questions of people that are in the room, because it's holding yourself accountable, and it's holding the people that you choose to associate with. You're holding them accountable as well. And in that moment, you can ask the second question, which is the second strategy, is either redirect the conversation or exit altogether. Redirect the conversation. If you see someone saying something negative about someone and you're like, you know what, I don't think that person would like that being said about them, or if it were me, I wouldn't want people saying this about me, then redirect the conversation. Say, you know what, let's not talk about her like that. Let's not have that type of conversation. But she's not here, to defend herself. There's always two sides to a story, right? Let's not, that's not really our business. Redirect the conversation, because it makes them, the person who's gossiping, feel really uncomfortable, and it sheds light on their character more than it does the person that they're trying to talk about and tear down. Redirect the conversation. Stay neutral in those conversations. So if someone's saying something, don't sit up there and put a laughing emoji on there. Don't egg that type of conversation on, because even though you're not saying anything, you putting a laughing emoji on there, or putting any other type of what they call those gifs, like GIFs or whatever, you put those type of things up on there, it's just egging that person on to continue that type of dialogue. And all that's doing is hurting someone else's reputation. It's damaging this person thinking that you're their friend, right? And you can't be friends with someone and friends with their enemy. That's an oxymoron. You cannot be friends to someone and sitting in a room where they're talking about that person that you call your friend. So don't egg on those conversations. And if you try to redirect the conversation and they don't want to redirect, they want to keep going back to that, exit that, because that's your cue. I don't belong here. Not every room deserves your energy. Make no mistake about that. Not every room deserves your energy. So if you are about enlightenment, if you are about positivity, if you are about, working together, you're about real sisterhood, you're about real friendships, you're about loyalty, those type of groups don't deserve your energy, especially if you're trying to redirect them and they're not trying to change. And I know it's not easy. I know it's not the popular thing. The thing is just to kind of fit in. As I mentioned before, empowered girls, confident girls don't build themselves up by tearing someone else down. You don't build your confidence with doing that. So, girls, this is what I wanted to share with you, and I want you to reflect right now. And if for the moms that are listening, if you are, doing this and your daughters are seeing you in these group chats, having these type of conversations, unbeknownst to you, you are teaching your daughter that these are the conversations that are okay. You are normalizing gossip. You are normalizing tearing someone down. So sometimes we have to make those self-reflective, questions to ourselves and say, yeah, am I doing this? Is my daughter watching this? And then change the behavior. Because again, when you're not in the room, guess who's the topic of conversation? It don't take a a rocket scientist to figure that one out. The minute you're not in the room, you're the next one being talked about. Is that really the space and environment that you want to be in? Girls, build yourselves up. Be in rooms where you're encouraging each other, supporting one another, cheering each other on, even when you're not there. That's the type of friends I want. Mentioning my name where there's opportunities, where there's, like, wow, you know what? I have a good friend that does this or that. That's the kind of people that you want to be around. That's the kind of conversations that they're having about you when you're not there. It's not a question of, would this person be okay with me saying this if I wasn't here? Absolutely, because I'm saying nothing but positivity. I have nothing but good to say about that person. And that's really, if you can't say that about the people that you hang out with and spend your free time with, then why do you really want to hang out with them if you don't have anything but good to say about that person? So girls, really reflect on these environments that you put yourselves in, that you allow yourself to stay in, and then tell yourself, I am going to be courageous enough to not do things or be in rooms just to fit in. Just to fit in. Your reputation is not just, limited to fitting in a room. Your character is not limited to just able to fit in a room where really you've outgrown that. You're not about that, you know? And once you remove something, it gives space and it gives room for you to be able to bring in chat rooms and things that are of positivity. Don't limit your opportunities because of one bad decision of something that you said in a group chat or allowed yourself to be a part of. And now that opportunity comes, and guess what? That screenshot or that picture that was taken of you now that is in the world web now comes back to haunt you. So make positive decisions for yourselves. And mothers who are watching, make sure you're setting the example and being the role model that you don't engage in these type of conversations as well. So that way you're teaching your daughter, just like our grandparents, big mamas taught us, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. And more importantly, remove yourself from those situations so your name is not even mentioned amongst groups that tear other sisters down. So that's what I wanted to share on this Wake Up Wednesday. Follow us if you haven't. If you haven't followed us on YouTube, go to our YouTube channel, Jessica Cares 1 on YouTube, and go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We have so many videos just like this. So if you like this and found this beneficial, like it. Grow our community so that way other people who are looking for content just like this for their daughters or young girls looking for content like this can find our page. So again, we're right on YouTube, Jessica Cares 1. You can find us, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss another episode. And if you are following us on Instagram or Facebook, it's the same thing. Instagram is Jessica Cares 1. We have a special announcement that is going to be made for our teen girls for 2026. So make sure you follow us so that way you can get that information. Stay tuned because in 2 weeks, I will be back sharing another Wake Up Wednesday content to help empower our teen girls one positive thought at a time.